Well, good morning, guys, and welcome back to Winding Racing. Today I am working on the Trike. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, we got a new carrier to go in there. Let me show you. This beautiful piece of equipment there needs to go into the swing arm. And then we got sprockets and chain to tie the motor to the rear axle. And in the process of doing that today, I need to move the pivot point up. As you can see, the counter shaft is right here. What that's going to do is drag the chain across the swing arm, which is no good. So, also in that process of the fabrication, what I need to do, besides bringing this up, this back corner here needs to come up. So I'm going to take this little piece of steel here, this tubing here, take that on out of there, and I'm gonna have to heat this up and bend this and bring it up. So basically from the pivot point we're heading up, because as it sits right now, if I lower the swing arm within the frame, if we bottom this thing out, we'll be dragging this portion of the frame in the dirt there, and that's no good. So basically we're gonna have to bring, if you look at the back frame portion of the frame of any motorcycle, you'll see that it comes up like this. So I have to kind of mimic that. So I'm gonna strip this down entirely, pull the motor out, the swing arm's got to come off, got to put the carrier bearing in there, and then I'm going to work on some fabrication work on this frame and then reassemble it. By the end of today, which is going to be a lot of work, we're going to have the chain all connected to the motor and everything lined up perfectly. So I'm going to get busy, get to work here, strip it all down. I'll bring you back periodically through the day as the project progresses. So we'll see you in a bit. Well, hey guys, well, I've been having fun here. I got the mini trike all stripped down, took the motor out and all that, and what I found was from this mount here, which is on the bottom of the motor, to the counter shaft, the center of the counter shaft is 3.5 inches. So before I had these mounts here for the swing arm, the pivot point was all the way down to the frame. I'm having to bring it up, and I did, about 2.5 inches. So I had some 1/4 inch plate here. I cut this out here, brought this on up, and then I put the one stock mounts here, the brackets here for the pivot. So that's what it's looking like at this point. And I got it all centered and leveled and everything that has to take place here. I'm ready to weld this on here. And then what I'm going to do with the frame is I'm going to be cutting the frame here and then notching the frame. I'll be able to cut a groove through there and actually slide it onto this point here. So I take it on up, keeping this bend here, and I'm going to have to probably straighten out the bend because it'll be coming up here, and then I want to tie into this frame up in here. So I think that's basically how it's going to end up looking. I'm going to have to trim this a little bit here, make this all look neat, but right now I'm working on getting the geometry all right, and then I can make it look pretty. But that's how it's looking so far. And I'm going to get back to my fabrication work, and I'll bring you back when it's a little further along, and so you can see how it's looking. But yeah, that's it. I think that's going to work. So you can tell that when I bring the swing arm up, it rubs up here. So that's why this frame's all coming up, and that's going to get out of the way of the suspension. So I'm going to get back to work, and we'll see you guys in a little bit. Well, good morning, guys. Well, it's the next morning. I had to get some stuff done yesterday, and so I had to put the project off a little bit. But on it again today. Now, as you can see, I had to move the swing arm pivot up quite a bit. on the motor, the distance between the mount, the bottom mount there, and the countershaft sprocket, let's get a little closer, is 3.5 inches. So I basically want the chain to come out in one line, countershaft to the pivot to the rear sprocket. So in order to accomplish that, I had to bring the pivot point up right here. That's the bottom mount. That is the pivot for the swing arm. 3.5 inches there. So what I had to do, I had some, actually it's 1/4 inch angle iron there. You know, cut a little section off there. You can see the scraps left over from that. So that's pretty heavy there. It's welded, secured very well there. So that's going to be okay as far as holding the swing arm pivot there. Cut this back section off the frame here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to straighten this bend out a bit. So it'll be in line with that. I'm going to bring that up from the corner of the 1/4 inch plate there up to it to give it this angle here instead of just going flat across. Because like I explained, if the suspension drops down, this corner will be dragging in the dirt. So that'll be no bueno. So I'm going to be doing this here, and I'll have to extend, use that piece right there. Extend this out a bit here, straighten that curve out, and I'll end up cutting the frame up a little bit higher there. So it's cold out here, so I'm gonna get to work and try to warm myself up, and I'll bring you guys back when there's actually a visual. You guys will be able to see exactly what I'm saying there. So I'm gonna get to work. I want to get this all done today. So anyways, we'll see in a little bit. All right guys, if some of you are more of visual than seeing the picture when I'm talking, I got one of these sides all done. As you can see, I straightened this bend out a little bit, brought it into the corner here. Ouch, that's still hot. I just welded it. And yeah, so that's how that looks. I'm gonna get the other side done, and I got to finish welding up the motor mounts. I'll put the motor in there, the swing arm on, and we'll be throwing a chain on here pretty quick. So that's how it's looking. I'm gonna get that done real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, let's mount up the swing arm and see how that all looks. I got a few more welds to do, but I want to make sure everything fits before I button it up real tight. So yeah, we'll put the motor in, put the swing arm on, and see how it's all gonna look. I do have to give a heads up and a thank you to this gentleman that I met at the SEMA show that sold me this diamond impregnated disc here, Bad Dog Tools. I have been wondering how I am going to, in the future, cut aluminum with my 4-inch grinder, because, you know, typically you'd use a 7-inch saw, carbide blade, and that works fine. But for doing little detail work on aluminum, it's like, how am I going to do this? So I'm like, I decided to check this thing out. And I tell you what, because I had to take this down a little bit to get past the framework here, and it just did a remarkable job cutting and grinding that aluminum. And typically things get gummed up. This thing, you can see a little bit there, but I mean, it went through the job, and it just did a beautiful job. So this, I mean, diamond impregnated, this thing cuts everything. The guy, when he demonstrated this tool, it cut ceramic tile, it cut block, steel. I mean, I couldn't have made a better purchase than that little blade right there. Bad Dog Tools, diamond impregnated cutting disc. It's a godsend. This thing was remarkable what it does. So anybody out there wants just the perfect cutting tool for their 4.5-inch grinder, they even give a lifetime guarantee. Heavy duty diamond 4.5-inch disc. Bad Dog Tools. That's the tool of the future right there. Might say they are not a sponsor of mine at all. I'm just super excited about this, and just want to pass it along to you guys. The future of cutting, lifetime warranty, Bad Dog Tools, diamond blade. That's the tool right there for cutting. So guys, I got the swing arm all mounted. The motor is in as far as it's going to go without making a little bit of changes. Well, let me show you. One problem is the chain and the frame. As you can see, we have a curve there. So what I'm going to have to do here is this frame's going to have to come straight out. But I don't want to mess with this portion of it. So I'm going to have to do like an S-turn, use my tubing bender, and come down in line with this, come out, and then back down. Give it a little bit more space here to straighten that chain out. And then this mount that I did for the swing arm pivot, you see, is not allowing this motor to come back. So I just got to take my torches and cut that off. And then it'll fit down in here. So you can see we're not able to shift this motor over. So we are in the mock-up stage here, and came up with a couple of problems, but we can get these problems taken care of. This is going to be simple. I'll just have to cut a little notch there, pull that over, do a little bit of an S here, and yeah, that'll work out fine. And then of course I got to get that motor in there. So I redid the top shock mount, gave that a little bit of a angle there, and that's all working good. So a couple of things got to take care of before I can set this motor into place and have that chain actually functioning here. So as you can see, it does rub the frame there. So I'm gonna get on it. We'll get that little problem solved. So in order to get that little S bend that I need to shift the frame over enough for the chain, I'm gonna have to bend a little piece of tubing here. I'll go, you know, as much as I can go on this. This is about a 1 foot piece. I'm gonna bend that up, and then I'm gonna have to cut it and reverse the bend, because I only have about 6 inches to be able to shift that over. So I have up to about here to here, the end of this bend, and up there. So that's about 6 inches I got to shift out and back within that much. So I'm going to go ahead and bend this tubing here and then work with the curve that I got to accomplish that. It looks like it's got to shift over about 1 inch. So we'll be able to do it. Let's get this bent. I think that'll be able to do it. I don't know how many degrees that is, but if I cut it in half, flip it around, that should be able to do it. I only got about maybe 1 inch left before it falls off the die there, so. Well, let's take it to the end, just to be safe. Which means I got to pull this pin out and shift it. So let's do that. All right, cut that in half, turn it into an S, and that'll be able to do it. I think that'll give me plenty to work with there. I'll do that little fab in there, and I'll bring you guys right back, show you how it turned out. Well guys, it's been a day, and I'm gonna call it. So let's take a look at what we did this weekend. Got the new carrier installed, so now the axle is actually attached to the swing arm. New sprocket and chain. We actually lifted the pivot point, so now there's no major rubbing anywhere going on here. I moved the shock. The shock was mounted down here, and it made it real high in the rear end. Now this thing is actually sitting real nice. We're still going to get the lower profile tires. So connected the clutch, so this thing actually rolls now. So, oh, and the big thing was I started out by moving this up. That didn't work because we were having some major chain rubbage. So now I put that S-turn in there. So now that's how the rear end's sitting. The chain's not rubbing anywhere. We will have to get the it's a little cover that goes over the swing arm there, the pivot area there. So, and that's pretty typical. But we got plenty of room underneath. So when this suspension's bottomed out, we're not going to have anything rubbing down below there. And even when you're sitting on this, it'll drop down a little bit, so it won't even be rubbing. But that's pretty typical to have that protective thing on the swing arm there. So yeah, the next major thing besides getting this motor started up, this gas tank, as you see, has a single backbone going through that, single piece of tubing, and this is a double. So I'm going to end up cutting this double framework out of there, and so then the gas tank will actually lower down a couple inches there. So that's coming. This swing arm, it does need a clip here, so we can actually tighten up the carrier. So, and then the 4 pinch bolts there. So I adjusted the chain there, but it's not going to stay adjusted until we get those bolts in there. So yeah, quite a bit of work this weekend, but it is now sitting better, it's functioning better, and this little trike is on its way. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put these guys. These are foot pegs off an LT 250 that I had, and we also need the master cylinder and the caliper for the brakes. So there are no brakes. So anyways, work to come, but we sure made some progress this weekend. This is a kick-ass little vehicle now, and we'll get it running real soon. I want to thank you guys for watching, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, liked and comment. Let me know what you guys think of this trike, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.